intro. Indeed. Fascinating. Drive. Drive is not a movie about driving cars. It is a movie about a guy that drives cars. And that's an important distinction to be made because there's little driving actually being done in the movie in the sense of car chases and action scenes. They're just two big car chase scenes in the movie. One right at the beginning, which serves kind of as an introduction, and one towards the middle, which is a big plot point. But really, this is not... I find this movie fascinating by comparing it with The Transporter, because Drive is everything that The Transporter isn't, and vice versa. This movie is like a study on coolness. It is everything in the movie, like the atmosphere, the soundtrack, the way that it's edited, the minimalistic style of acting employed by these actors. Everything serves to enforce the idea that this is a cool movie. I mean, just by virtue of watching it and liking it, you're 32% more cool as an individual. That being said, while I liked the movie, I didn't love it, because there's some concessions being made in order to preserve the air of coolness around it that kind of affect the story. Namely, you have this guy, the main character, the driver. Now, he's so cool, he doesn't even need a name. The driver is thrown into certain situations where he has to fight against criminal masterminds, or mob bosses, if you want. And there are three big villains in the movie, and each of them is kind of a criminal overlord. And every time the driver has a face-to-face conflict with one of these characters, every time these mob bosses are freaking alone. Because of course you're going to get your ass beat by a pretty boy that has only one useful skill, mainly driving, if you don't have your backup, you don't have your entourage with you. And this happens even in the big showdown scene at the end, where the driver goes against the biggest mob boss of them all. And this guy, the main bad guy, comes to this showdown without any kind of backup, without any kind of protection. But of course, within the context of this movie, it makes sense that a mob boss would not be surrounded by 10 bodyguards, because then you would have this big fight scene of one guy against 10 guys, and that's Jason Statham's territory. That's not the driver's territory. But I will say that I really liked Albert Brooks' performance in this, and he plays one of the three villains alongside Ron Perlman, who Ron Perlman is always awesome as a bad guy. But Albert Brooks really brings humanity to his villainous character, and at the same time you can really tell that he had fun playing this role. He had fun playing something that was so completely outside of his comfort zone, or outside of the things that people normally know him as. I would have liked maybe Carey Mulligan to do a bit more in the movie, because she serves as a very generic kind of character. But really, Drive is entirely resting on Ryan Gosling's performance. I mean, if you would have told me 10 or 15 years ago that out of the guy that plays Hercules and the guy that plays young Hercules, the guy who plays young Hercules would become more famous, I would have said, you're nuts. A lot of time is devoted to exploring the mystery behind the driver, but this exploration, it's done in such an unusual, subtle way that you might think that it's not even there. But it really is, because, for instance, he wears a jacket all the time with a scorpion on the back, and throughout the movie I wonder what is the significance of the scorpion. And at some point they do tell you, but again, they don't tell you explicitly. It's still something that you have to pick up on by yourself. And there's so many things about this character that are evident, but then at the same time they're not. It's all done in a very subtle way, and by the end of the movie you actually don't know a lot about the driver. You never find out his name. All that you know is that he's the kind of guy that when he really cares about something, he's willing to kill for it. But really, the whole aura of mystery around the driver is so expertly crafted, and they do know that if they outright tell you everything that you want to know, that would kill the mystery. So that's something that they avoid doing, but at the same time they place little hints for those who have the eyes to see them. So yeah, in conclusion, Drive, think of Drive as a personal apology from Ryan Gosling for all the crap he put guys through with The Notebook.